We're here to talk about another week that delivered in college football, a fantastic weekend of football in week 6. And we're going to start with Miami at Florida State. And what can you say about this game for Miami except for dominance? They dominated this game. Now, I know the scoreboard doesn't look like it because Florida State tried to mount quite the comeback, gave themselves an opportunity at the end of the game for an onside kick. But realistically, Miami, this game was never in doubt for Miami. They were up 28-3 well into the fourth quarter. 3 points in the first 3 quarters is a dominant performance from this defense from Miami. They forced 2 interceptions and a fumble. They held Florida State to 3.5 yards a carry, and that, I think, is the biggest key to this game. They kept Tommy Castellanos off rhythm. They never allowed him to escape the pocket and just abuse the defense through his legs. And that's the key to stopping this Florida State team, is to stop their running game and stop the quarterback run in particular at times. And Miami did that. An absolutely dominant performance from this Miami defense. And it wasn't an aggressive defense. They only had the 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. It's not a crazy game. It's not like this is a Miami defense that was playing in the backfield all day long, but they just held up at the point of attack. They never let Florida State bust a bunch of big plays, and it forced Florida State into drives that just never took off. And absolute credit to Miami in this game. Completely dominated a Florida State team and a Florida State offense that was the best in the country. And I think that really kind of is the game that now announces Miami as a potential championship contender. And the rest of this schedule for Miami, they are going to out-talent everyone that they play. So as long as Miami stays what Miami has shown us so far, if they can stay locked in, stay focused on the rest of their schedule, they are going to walk into an ACC championship game undefeated and with a chance to secure a bye week in the playoff. So absolutely dominant performance from Miami. I think this should excite anyone who is a Miami fan. I think this team is really good. Malachi Toney popped off yet again in this game. 7 catches, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's a stud. I mean, we've known that since day one against Notre Dame. Dominant performance for Miami. As far as Florida State, you walk out of this game and you know this isn't a championship team now. And this isn't a team that's going to do damage if for some reason they're able to sneak into a playoff and win out the rest of their schedule. But what it seems to me is that they have at least fixed a lot of the culture problems that they had last year. Last year was not a 2-10 roster, but they were a 2-10 team. And what you like to see here at the end of this game, this is a Florida State team that never gave up, even though they had been dominated physically for 3 quarters. They never gave up. They stuck with it. They found a way to claw back into this game and give themselves a shot. And now they needed a miracle, and they didn't get it. But they gave themselves a shot in this game, and I think you like to see that if you're a Florida State fan. Obviously, you would have loved for them to have been able to compete earlier in this game, but you like to see a team that never gave up in this game, and I think that bodes well moving forward as a team that, even though a lot of your goals have started to run away from you at this point in this season, you'd like to see a team that is never going to give up on the season. And so if you have that in this locker room now, in this culture now, then I think moving forward that you can trust this team and this program to continue to have success and to find its way back to that 2023 season where you can have some of those better teams. But this isn't going to be that season for Florida State this year. But I think this gives you a lot of hope moving forward if you're a Florida State fan. But the schedule does open up for you, so I do think it's possible. I think this is 9 or possibly even 10-win team. And if this is a 10-win team, anything can happen. I mean, you do have that win over Alabama. So good things potentially still to come for both of these teams. Let's move on and talk about Alabama getting a victory, a big win for them over Vanderbilt, 30-14. And second week in a row, what has this Alabama team done? They've won on third down, they've possessed the football, and they've just played complementary football. This team went 7 for 15 on third down, and they went 2 of 3 on fourth down. They won third down in on both sides of this football. I mean, Vanderbilt went 5 for 11 on third down, and then they had their fourth down stop as well. And you get a 2-1 turnover edge for Alabama. I think this isn't vintage Alabama with Nick Saban, but what they have done is they've played really good defense and they've played complementary football. They possess the ball on offense. Now, they don't do it the way a vintage Alabama team does with just a dominant running game, but they find ways to they stay on schedule with those screen passes to the outside. And I mean, Jam Miller had a pretty good game this year. They did run the ball a lot better in this game, but it's not vintage Alabama. But this is an Alabama team that can compete for a national championship right now, and they look really good. And Ty Simpson is a major factor in this rise for Alabama right now. He is playing incredible football, and it's not like in the Georgia game he was able to play on schedule. He was able to play in rhythm, and Vanderbilt kind of took him out of that. They had 4 sacks in this game. They had 6 tackles for loss in this game. Ty Simpson was under a lot of pressure in this game. Vanderbilt's defensive line played incredibly well in this game, but it didn't matter because even off schedule, Ty Simpson was able to find ways to keep the offense on schedule even while he was playing under duress, under pressure. He was able to just find ways to matriculate this ball downfield. And, Vanderbilt kept themselves in this game by forcing field goals on some of those long drives, but it didn't matter because of how well Alabama possessed the football, and they didn't give up a crazy amount of explosive plays on defense. And they did give up some. I mean, Cedric Alexander had that 165-yard touchdown run, but outside of that, he only ran the ball 3 other times for only 11 yards. And I think this is one of the things that concerns me for Vanderbilt moving forward is they ran the ball 18 times in this game. 12 of those rushes are from Diego Pavia. Like, that is not a sustainable way to run your offense. And, I mean, Cedric Alexander had four rushes in this game, the 65-yard touchdown, and then the 3 other carries for 11 yards. And if you look at Diego Pavia, he had the 135-yard rush, and then he had 11 other rushes and for 22 yards. So they had a couple of explosive plays in the running game, but outside of those explosive plays, they really could not move the football on the ground. And that is something that Vanderbilt is going to have to get figured out if they want to compete, if they want to actually win some of these games in the SEC rather than just show up, compete. And they did. They showed up. They competed in this game. This is not a Vanderbilt team that just got run out of the building. They absolutely belonged on that football field. They just could not run the ball as effectively as they needed to find ways into this game. And that's a credit to Alabama and this defense. So, I think you got to be really happy with what you've seen from a Kalen DeBoer defense that you expected Alabama to win games by putting up 40, 50 points this year, and that's not what they've done. They have found ways to play really good defense, stop the run in this game, keep the explosive plays to a minimum, and just play complementary football, and that's what they've done. So I think this Alabama team is set up really well to compete for a national championship this year. Let's move on to some of the surprises that we got this weekend. And the first one is Texas at Florida. Now, I think the big question is what went wrong in this game for Texas? And I have an answer, but I think that answer is different than what a lot of the internet seems to think. A lot of the internet wants to lay this game on the feet of Arch Manning. But and he did have 2 interceptions. I'll grant you that. But I want to ask you, who was Texas's leading rusher in this game? Because Arch is actually your leading rusher. He had 15 carries for 37 yards, and that includes 6 sacks. He was sacked 6 times, and yet is the leading rusher for this team. Quintravion Wisner had 8 carries for 11 yards. That's 1 yard shy of 1.5 yards a carry. That is not good enough for this Texas team. They could not run the football at all in this game. Their offensive line was absolutely dominated by Florida. Florida had 6 sacks, as previously mentioned, and also 7 tackles for loss in this game. That's not a sustainable way. Like you don't have that happen to you and win games. You have got to find a way to run the ball. I mean, the key stat in this game, 159 to 52 rushing yard edge for Florida. That is what went wrong for Texas. That is what went right for Florida. Florida stuck to the running game. It was working early, and they stayed disciplined enough to stick to that running game. That running game then allows them to take those downfield shots with DJ Lagway, and it really opened up this Florida offense. And they were able to find success because they found success on the ground. And Florida, both sides of the football, dominated the line of scrimmage. And that's why they won this football game. So for Florida moving forward, they are talented enough. I mean, I think this has been the case. I think we've known this all season. This is a Florida team that is talented enough to play and compete in any game they're going to play this season. But now they've found a winning formula. And if they can stick to that winning formula, then this gives them a shot in any game they play. If they can actually run the football, find an offense, find those explosive plays in the passing game off the back of that running game, then this is a Florida team that could win any game they play. Now, they have an incredibly tough schedule, so will they win every game they play? No, but they could win any game they play. That is for damn certain. So, credit to this Florida team, but Texas has got to find a way to run the ball. And if they can't find a way to run the ball, then they've got to find extensions of their running game. They've got to find a way to get the ball out faster. I know sacks are not always just on the offensive line. Like sometimes that is a problem with quarterbacks holding on to the football too much. And maybe that's a problem for Arch. But if it is, they've got to find a way to get the ball out faster and find that short, quick passing game to complement their running game. And that running game is going to have to find at least some way to push the ball a little bit. And it does not look good for this Texas team. This Texas offense looks bad, and it's not all Arch Manning. Like, I don't know where this Texas offense looks for answers, but it's got to figure out the offensive line. It's got to start there. The offensive line has got to play better. Now let's move to the biggest shock of this weekend, and that's Penn State just being dominated from the offensive perspective. I mean, UCLA put up 42 points in this game. It's 42-37 game that UCLA walks away with. And first of all, I want to say there have not been a ton of positive vibes for UCLA the past few years. And so I'm really happy for this UCLA fan base that they finally got to feel something positive. They finally got to feel something that gives them a little bit of hope that good things can happen to them because it's been a rough few years for UCLA. And they held a 39-21 time of possession edge in this game. They ran 76 plays to Penn State's 57 plays. Now, I know in the second half, Penn State is trying to score quickly to get back into this game, but they just possessed the football in this game, and they did it with a dominant rushing game. They had almost 300 yards rushing in this game. Penn State could not buy a stop in this game. Now, a lot of that also goes to the credit of Nico, who had Nico Iamaleava, who had 128 rushing yards in this game. He also threw for 166 yards. He accounts for 5 touchdowns. A real coming out party for Nico Iamaleava and this UCLA offense. If this is an offense that can efficiently run the football, then maybe they can find ways to win games in this league. But for Penn State, I don't know where you go from here. You lose that game to Oregon and your offense looks terrible, and now you lose this game to UCLA and your defense looks terrible. So I don't know where you go from here, but you've got questions on both sides of the ball now, and you have to win out to even come close to accomplishing any of the goals that you had for this season, and that's going to be a tall task. They have Ohio State still on that schedule. They have Indiana, which could be a top 10 matchup on their schedule left. Man, I don't know. I don't know where Penn State goes from here, but they've got questions everywhere now, and nobody is safe on that Penn State coaching staff. And I do want to point out, I'm not one normally to question play calling, but on that 4th and 2 opportunity in the red zone as you're trying to tie the game, they run that jet sweep read, which leads to a potential quarterback power with Drew Aller on 4th and 2, and that's where it goes. That's where the read takes him, and I do not love that play. If you're going to run the football, I really would love to see you put the ball in the hands of Katron Allen or Nicholas Singleton, who, by the way, for the second game in a row has been a non-factor. But rather than if you're going to put the ball in the hands of Drew Aller, let him throw the ball. And if he's going to take off, let him take off and not, because that's where his running game is effective. I know he's your leading rusher in this game, which is a problem in and of itself. But his success in the running game comes from taking what he can get when the play breaks down and there aren't options downfield, and so he goes and gets you 5 yards. His success in the running game isn't these quarterback powers. They ran that play so many times. They ran that play 3 or 4 times in the Oregon game, and it never worked. I hate that play, but not the only reason they lost this game. I mean, their defense was hot garbage, and they could not get a stop to save their lives. And I don't know. We'll see where Penn State goes from here, but it does not look good right now. And then I want to talk about another not exactly upset. I mean, Cincinnati was a favorite in this game, a slight favorite in this game, but Iowa State goes down, and, they say you can't win a game in the first half, but you can damn sure lose a game in the first half, and that's what happened here today. Cincinnati had 31 points in the first half, and Iowa State ends the game with 30. Now, so Iowa State just played desperate all day, and that shows. Third down, 4 of 17. And then they went for it a whole heck of a lot on 4th down, and they went 4 for 7. And on top of that, they missed a field goal. So that accounts to really 4 turnovers effectively for this Iowa State team, and that's not a winning strategy. And on the other side of the football, where I think a lot of their problems lied in this game, is Cincinnati averaged 8 yards a rush, and they averaged 16 yards a reception. And I know Brendan Sorsby wasn't efficient exactly, but that's not really Cincinnati's MO. They like to run the football and then throw over the top, and they look for explosive passing game. And so he's completing only 50% of his passes, but that accounts for essentially 8 yards of play for the Cincinnati offense, and it's tough to win games when you're giving that up. And they just could not get a stop in the first half. And really, Cincinnati was what was stopping Cincinnati in the second half with penalties and all of that. But I know Iowa State lost 2 of their corners, their 2 best corners. coming into this game, but they're not coming back this season. So Iowa State is going to have to figure out how to play better defense than this. But on the Cincinnati side, I think you got to be really excited about the way you're running the football right now. And if you can continue to do that, you're going to be a real problem in the Big 12. And, look out for the Cincinnati team. I think this is a Cincinnati team that can compete for the Big 12. So props to them for pulling this game out. And I look forward to seeing what this team can do the rest of the way. And sticking in the Big 12, I want to touch briefly on Texas Tech. Man, they just keep rolling. 35-11 victory at Houston. And they are now starting to separate themselves in the Big 12. And it looks like Texas Tech versus the field right now in the Big 12. And then I want to talk briefly about Virginia finding a way to pull out a victory at Louisville. And not a pretty game, but sometimes in these games you just got to find a way to win. A 30-27 victory in overtime, walk-off victory. And really, this game was won by their defense, getting that stop, obviously, in overtime to force a field goal, and then their running game can get them that touchdown to ice the game. But also, this is a Virginia team that just found a way to win, and I mean, that includes 2 defensive touchdowns. 2 defensive touchdowns earns Virginia this win, and congrats to them. Allows them to stay ranked another week, and we'll see how well they can push for ACC championship contention. And then A&M, big win against Mississippi State here, and it looks like this defense is there to stay. 31-9 victory. Mississippi State is a team that last week put up a whole heck of a lot of points against Tennessee, but they weren't able to replicate that this game. 1 of 10 on third down is what A&M held them to. So if this A&M defense can play like that the rest of the year, then paired with that offense, A&M is a legit championship contender, both in the SEC and obviously the country. So, this A&M team looked really flawed to start the year, but they are starting to round out and starting to look like a proper contender. So look out for them. That's all the thoughts I have for you today on Week 6 of college football. We're looking forward to Week 7. I'll have that preview out soon. Let me know what you thought about these games. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.